I'm his friend. I'm normal.
I'm the lunatic.
Jack Klugman was one of those rare actors who never pretended to be anyone else. What you saw on screen was who he really was: blunt, passionate, and impossible to push around. But after The Odd Couple ended, there was one woman he promised he would never work with again. For years, people thought it was just Hollywood gossip. But if you look closely at the interviews, timelines, and quiet moments, it feels like a real fallout that everyone tried to hide. Jack was no man to hold grudges for no reason. His refusal to work with her again wasn't about money. Some say it was about loyalty. Others say it was about broken promises, cut scenes, and bruised egos after the show ended. Whatever it was enough to create a permanent split. By the end of this video, you'll see a side of Jack Klugman few have ever known. Before Jack Klugman became a household name, he was the kind of actor who had to claw his way up through grit and rejection. Born in Philadelphia during the Great Depression, he grew up tough. His father died young. His mother worked hard to keep the family afloat. And young Jack learned early that survival meant persistence. He carried that determination with him into acting, and it never left. When he finally found his footing on the stage, critics described him as rough around the edges, but impossible to look away from. That roughness would later become his signature. By the late 1960s, Klugman had done everything from guest appearances on The Twilight Zone to Broadway plays. But it was The Odd Couple that turned him into a star. Playing Oscar Madison, the messy, loud, yet lovable sports writer, Klugman tapped into something deeply relatable. He was the everyman who said what he meant, never polished, never fake. And that made audiences trust him instantly. Off-screen, he was much the same. Straightforward, loyal, and stubborn in the best way. Behind the camera, though, his personal life was not as neat as his sitcom timing. He had married actress Brett Somers in 1953, and the two shared a bond that was fiery, passionate, and often volatile. Somers would eventually play his ex-wife, Blanche, on The Odd Couple, a casting choice that mirrored their real-life friction in ways that felt almost too perfect. The public loved seeing them spar on screen, but insiders said that sometimes the tension carried over when the cameras stopped rolling. They separated in the mid-70s but never divorced, and despite the distance, they remained strangely tied to each other until her passing in 2007. Klugman was also known for surrounding himself with strong women, actresses, producers, writers, and he respected them deeply, as long as he believed they respected the craft as much as he did. But when he felt someone was cutting corners or not giving their all, he could turn cold in an instant. Friends said he had a switch. The same intensity that made him brilliant could also make him impossible. He was fiercely protective of his reputation and of the people he trusted. That intensity, that loyalty, would later become the spark behind some of his most famous disputes. And it was that very same fire that may have set the stage for the mysterious rift after The Odd Couple. Because for a man like Jack Klugman, walking away from someone he once worked closely with was not just about pride. It meant something had gone seriously wrong. When The Odd Couple wrapped in 1975, it marked the end of one of television's most iconic partnerships and the start of one of Hollywood's most quietly complex feuds. On screen, Jack Klugman and Tony Randall were magic together, their chemistry so natural that audiences assumed they were best friends in real life. In truth, their bond was deep, but not without friction. They were both perfectionists. Klugman ruled by instinct, while Randall demanded precision. Somehow, that contrast worked beautifully on camera. But when the show ended, not everyone left on good terms. By the final season, production had become tense. Ratings were slipping, budgets were tight, and scripts were being rewritten faster than anyone could memorize their lines. Klugman, who had always been vocal about quality, was increasingly frustrated with how the show was being handled. He wanted more control, more say in what the characters said and did. That stubbornness made him respected by some and resented by others. One insider later recalled, "Jack could be your best friend or your worst nightmare. It all depended on whether he thought you were doing your job right. There were also rumors, quiet ones, that one of his co-stars, a woman he had once praised publicly, had crossed a line with him during those final months. Some said it was about a contract dispute. Others whispered that a private disagreement on set turned personal. No one ever confirmed it, but the pattern was there. When The Odd Couple ended, she was out of his orbit for good. No collaborations, no guest spots on Quincy, M.E., nothing. It was as though she had vanished from his professional life entirely. Klugman, meanwhile, moved on fast. In 1976, he found his next defining role in Quincy, M.E., playing the gruff but passionate medical examiner who fought for justice. The show was more serious, more personal, and it gave him something The Odd Couple no longer could: control. He was involved in scripts, storylines, and tone. He fought the network on censorship, pushed for social themes, and turned Quincy, M.E., into one of television's most quietly revolutionary dramas. For Klugman, it was vindication. He had left behind the chaos of sitcoms and proven he could lead a serious show on his own terms, but success came with a shadow. People noticed how selective he had become about who he worked with. He rarely reunited with former co-stars, and even when nostalgia projects came up, Klugman kept his distance. To outsiders, it looked like professionalism. To those who knew him, it looked like something deeper. A man still haunted by something that went wrong on The Odd Couple. And while the world kept laughing at reruns, Jack Klugman quietly built a wall that would stay standing for the rest of his career. And that wall might hold the answer to why he never worked with her again. A story that traces back not just to ego or pride, but to the one thing Klugman valued more than fame: respect. If there was one thing everyone in Hollywood knew about Jack Klugman, it was this: he didn't compromise on integrity. When he believed in something, he fought for it, even if it meant clashing with producers, directors, or entire networks. That reputation followed him throughout his career, and while it earned him enormous respect, it also created a trail of refusals that became part of his legend. One of the most well-known examples came during the production of Quincy, M.E. In one episode, Klugman flat-out refused to appear because he believed the script betrayed the character. He felt the story was shallow, written just to fill airtime, and he wasn't having it. Instead of showing up on set, he stood his ground. The studio had to scramble to rewrite the episode without him. Most actors would have been replaced for that kind of defiance, but Klugman wasn't most actors. By that time, his performance was the show's backbone, and the network knew it. This kind of creative stubbornness wasn't new for him. During The Odd Couple, he often debated with the writers over dialogue, insisting that Oscar Madison had to sound authentic. He didn't want canned jokes or convenient resolutions. He wanted realism. And when someone tried to push through a scene he thought was beneath the character, he'd stop production cold. Crew members recalled him pacing back and forth, cigarette in hand, muttering, "That's not how Oscar would say it." Sometimes it took hours to get the line right, but when they did, it worked, because he was almost always right. But his refusals went beyond scripts. They extended to people. Klugman had an unspoken rule: if someone broke his trust on set, they wouldn't get a second chance. It wasn't anger, it was principle. He had seen too many careers destroyed by fake smiles and empty promises. Once, when asked in an interview whether he believed in forgiveness in Hollywood, he laughed and said, "I believe in respect. Forgiveness is for saints." It was a line that summed him up perfectly: raw, honest, and unfiltered. So when rumors began to spread that there was one actress he refused to work with ever again, it didn't sound out of character. To most fans, it seemed shocking, but to those who had seen Klugman in action, it fit. If he felt betrayed, if he felt someone had taken advantage of his loyalty or tried to undermine his work, he would walk away and never look back. There would be no public scene, no dramatic confrontation, just silence, the kind that spoke volumes. That silence was what made his supposed rift with her so intriguing. There were no quotes, no denials, no explanations, just a complete absence of collaboration that felt deliberate. And in Hollywood, deliberate silence often says more than words ever could. But who exactly was her? And what could have happened that made Jack Klugman, a man known for loyalty, draw such a permanent line? To understand who Jack Klugman may have refused to work with again, we have to rewind to the Odd Couple set itself, a place known for laughs on screen and quiet tension off it. While the show revolved around Klugman and Tony Randall, it featured a handful of women who played pivotal recurring roles. Chief among them was Brett Somers, who played Oscar Madison's ex-wife, Blanche. The chemistry between Klugman and Somers was electric, not just because they were married in real life, but because their real relationship often mirrored their characters' playful resentment. Fans loved it, producers loved it. But to those close to them, that dynamic sometimes cut too close to reality. Their marriage had already been strained long before the show, and working together didn't exactly heal old wounds. They separated in the mid-70s, though they never divorced. For years afterward, interviews hinted at unresolved tension. Somers once joked that she and Klugman were better at playing ex-spouses than real ones. To audiences, it sounded funny. To those who knew them, it sounded like truth wearing a smile. That is why many people speculate that her was Brett Somers. After The Odd Couple ended, Klugman and Somers never worked together again, not even when opportunities arose. When Quincy M.E. was at its peak, she was still active in television and theater, yet the two never crossed paths professionally again. Even when The Odd Couple was revived for specials and retrospectives, they appeared separately. For a pair once seen as inseparable, that silence spoke loudly. But Somers isn't the only possible her. Some believe it could have been another recurring actress from The Odd Couple, someone who clashed with Klugman behind the scenes over lines or direction. There were stories of heated arguments on set between Klugman and certain guest stars, though nothing was ever confirmed. Hollywood in the 1970s was notorious for keeping internal conflicts quiet. The industry protected its stars, and whispers rarely made it into print, unless they became impossible to ignore. Another theory points to a producer's assistant or behind-the-scenes figure who may have been involved in a disagreement over scheduling or creative control. Klugman, after all, was deeply involved in the show's production during its later years. If someone undermined him, especially someone he trusted, it could explain why he chose never to collaborate with them again. He had little tolerance for betrayal, even in small forms. Still, the Brett Somers theory remains the most convincing. They shared a complicated love story, filled with passion, humor, and tension, but also resentment and regret. When they finally went their separate ways, Klugman didn't speak negatively about her, but he didn't speak much at all. That silence, once again, felt intentional. It wasn't hate, it was closure on his terms. And as his career evolved, that pattern repeated. He could be warm and generous, but once he closed a chapter, he rarely reopened it. The woman he refused to work with again might have represented more than just a broken working relationship. She might have been the last reminder of a part of his life he wanted to leave behind. But what could have caused that kind of finality? Why would a man known for loyalty suddenly cut someone off completely? The answer may lie in what happened behind the scenes during those final months of The Odd Couple, and in the unspoken boundaries Klugman drew when he felt someone had crossed the line. Jack Klugman's legacy is one filled with great success, challenge, and lasting impact. His work on The Odd Couple and Quincy M.E. made him a beloved figure in television history. Over the years, both fans and critics have looked back at his career with respect and admiration. Klugman was not just known for his acting talent, but also for his toughness. His fight against throat cancer and determination to keep working inspired many. People saw him as a man who refused to be defeated by life's hardships. This courage added a strong human side to his public image. Despite the success, Klugman's career also had moments of controversy and mystery. Rumors about his personal life, including his complicated relationship with Brett Somers and rumored disputes with others, added layers to how people viewed him. These stories made him seem real and relatable, not just a TV star, but a person with struggles like anyone else. In recent years, some new information and interviews have come to light, helping fans understand Klugman better. His son and friends have shared memories of the real Jack, a man who was kind, funny, and sometimes stubborn. These stories have helped paint a fuller picture beyond the characters he played. Fans today appreciate how Klugman's work still holds up. His performances show a blend of strong emotion and natural humor. Whether as Oscar Madison or the Detective Quincy, Klugman brought genuine warmth and depth to his roles. Modern viewers often discover his shows through reruns and streaming, finding timeless entertainment and classic acting. Klugman's legacy also lives on in the many actors he inspired. His ability to adapt, especially after illness, showed other performers the importance of resilience. He proved that talent combined with perseverance can create a lasting mark on the entertainment world. Though some controversies remain a topic of gossip, most people remember Klugman for his work and bravery. His story is a reminder of the complex lives behind the spotlight. He was a man who loved his craft, fought hard against difficulties, and left behind unforgettable characters for generations to enjoy. In the end, Jack Klugman's legacy is one of talent, toughness, and enduring respect. Fans and historians continue to celebrate him, not just as the funny man from The Odd Couple, but as a true television legend who never gave up, even when times got tough. Now, to be fair, not everyone buys the bad blood theory. There's no smoking gun, no confirmed interview where Jack Klugman ever said he refused to work with Brett Summers. In fact, Klugman rarely spoke about her at all, and when he did, it was with a strange mix of fondness and distance. He once admitted, "We never really divorced. We just stopped being together." Some close to him have said the separation wasn't about hate, it was about peace. Klugman was battling throat cancer later in life, and his priorities shifted. By then, television had changed, their careers had drifted apart, and maybe they'd simply said everything they needed to say, both on screen and off. But fans love a story with tension. They saw two exes turning heartbreak into comedy gold, and when the cameras stopped rolling, they connected the dots themselves. Over time, rumor became legend, and legend became truth. Still, what's undeniable is that their chemistry, however complicated, left a mark on TV history. Maybe Klugman didn't refuse to work with her. Maybe he just knew that some partnerships, no matter how iconic, can't be recaptured without reopening old wounds. So what does this all tell us about Jack Klugman? We have stories, whispers of refusals, hints of fallout, but no definitive answers. There's evidence he drew a line after The Odd Couple, but not much explaining why. And maybe that silence was the explanation. Klugman was an artist who believed in control of his craft, his image, and his peace. When something crossed those boundaries, he simply walked away. No press statements, no public drama, just a quiet, permanent distance. That's what keeps the mystery alive. Fans are still debating, was it heartbreak, ego, or just exhaustion from living a double act that hit too close to home? Maybe the real reason will never be known. But the legacy of those choices still echoes every time Oscar and Blanche trade barbs on screen. And now, it's your turn. What do you think really happened between Jack Klugman and her? Drop your theory in the comments, or see if you can spot hidden clues in their Odd Couple scenes that we might have missed. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.